We found out that Blake Lively's team, according to her attorney, is actually planning to file an amended complaint in their lawsuit against Baldoni and others. According to her attorney, Michael Gottlieb, that is going to include new claims from Blake Lively and going to be bringing this lawsuit against new defendants. He's, of course, meeting for the first time in court today. It was about a 90-minute hearing.
The same tactic that they're doing over and over again of trying to manipulate the courts to get what they want.
Lyman had already given Blake Lively's legal team an extension.
Even when Judge Lyman granted Blake Lively's legal team an extension until Valentine's Day on February 14th, they were still not happy. Even though they were trying their luck, they returned and asked for an extension till March 5th. But it didn't sit well with Judge Lyman. They had previously been given more time, and now they wanted to wait even longer. Blake's team explained that they intended to call more witnesses to testify against Justin Baldoni in order to support their motion. One of the important witnesses they took into account was Jenny Slate, who played Baldoni's sister in the film It Ends With Us. Previously defended her and called the accusations against Blake unfounded, was a well-known Blake fan. She had openly supported Blake and made a forceful speech to support her. As Blake Lively's friend and co-star, I wholeheartedly endorse her taking action against those responsible for the attack on her reputation. Blake serves as a leader, a devoted friend, and a reliable emotional support system for a lot of us. The information made public regarding the assaults on her is both damaging and upsetting, Jenny said. I support her and I applaud her courage. Jenny initially appeared fully committed, prepared to support Blake's arguments in court, but she surprised everyone, Blake most of all, when it came time to testify. According to reports, Jenny completely disassociated herself from the situation and denied any direct participation. Even though she was reluctant, Blake's legal team tried to subpoena her because they thought she had had awkward interactions with Baldoni that would support their case. However, a lot of people conjectured that this was only a tactic to influence the court by including more women in the complaint, giving the impression that Blake's assertions were more widely accepted. When this strategy didn't work out as planned, however, Blake's team had to quickly devise a new plan. They asked for another extension at that point. Judge Lyman did not believe it. In a lengthy and excessively complex answer, Blake's legal team stated that they required more time to add more parties to the complaint when he questioned why they now needed more time. Among them were Jed Wallace and his business, Street Relations. According to Blake's team, Wallace had allegedly overlapped their case with a 10-page complaint he filed in a federal court in Texas. They said that it took more time to handle his case. On the surface, it seemed like a decent call. It wasn't that easy, though. Brian Friedman, the attorney for Justin Baldoni, was ready. With receipts in hand, he physically demonstrated that Blake's team had denied his team's request for an extension during the horrific LA fires in January. The legal team refused to give Baldoni's team any wiggle room, even though they had been dealing with a real crisis. We have no objection to their request now, despite the Lively party's inexplicable refusal to grant an extension when we requested one during the Los Angeles wildfires, Friedman said, exposing their hypocrisy. He basically stated that Baldoni's team would also need an extension if Blake's team was given one, extending their own answer date to April 15th. The legal team for Wayfarer, which represents Baldoni and his production firm, said they were not too concerned about Blake's team getting more time. They basically stated, "We don't care, take your extension." They did, however, make it apparent that any additional time for Blake's team also meant more time for them. Their position was straightforward. To provide a level playing field, Baldoni's team would postpone their own response date further if Blake's team was successful in getting what they desired. I mean, fair is fair. Brian Friedman, however, was not done yet. There was one more thing he revealed that rocked the chamber. He revealed Blake's crew had made a significant misstatement in a cool, collected manner. By implying that Jed Wallace's legal action was the cause of the delay, they attempted to place the responsibility on him. Friedman, however, had no intention of overlooking that story. Taking out the receipts, he disclosed that Blake had really been the one to initiate a lawsuit against Wallace in Texas on January 21st, 2 weeks before Wallace had even replied. The Lively party conveniently overlooked the fact that Miss Lively herself started the ongoing litigation in Texas, Friedman said. About 2 weeks prior to Mr. Wallace's federal lawsuit response on January 21st, she filed a complaint against him in Texas state court. The insolence. Incredulous quiet descended across the courtroom. Blake's crew appeared to have been caught attempting to deceive the judge, and Brian was determined to ensure they did not get away with it. Not to Judge Lehman's amusement, their plea for a 1-month extension was immediately turned down by him. He just gave them 1 more day to submit their change instead. One could not help but notice Blake's legal team's defeated expression. With their heads down and shoulders down, they appeared to be a troupe who had just discovered they were out of tricks. Lehman was quite explicit about that. Blake wasn't going to let his team drag this case out any further because they hadn't provided any persuasive argument for why they needed additional time. And Blake's side's situation deteriorated just when it appeared impossible for it to go worse. Recall how Blake's legal team had frantically attempted to stop Brian Friedman from speaking to the media by imposing a gag order? That move failed terribly, though. The court quickly closed it down. Nice attempt, but no. The decision gave Friedman the freedom to keep discussing the issue in public, which was precisely what Blake's team had been attempting to prevent. Imagine your most tenacious opponent being given a microphone by the court while you are attempting to steer the conversation. The court had essentially given Friedman the go-ahead to continue revealing every uncomfortable reality, despite Blake's team's best efforts to quiet him. Another significant setback followed, which made this court battle an even greater public spectacle. Blake's side was in disarray when Justin Baldoni's legal team released a website devoted just to the case. Over the weekend, Baldoni's team delivered the bombshell by revealing a newly created website that included an amended court complaint, a painstakingly produced 168-page timeline of events, and, most incriminating of all, never-before-seen text conversations purportedly exchanged between Blake and Baldoni. There was more to the website than merely legal paperwork. It was a fully functional digital archive with proof, invoices, and video, all accessible to the general public. Blake's team's attempt to keep the specifics under wraps was essentially destroyed by this open invitation for anybody following the case to look into the facts for themselves. Now that the issue was being contested not just in the courts but also in the public eye, Blake's team was in even more trouble. The odds appeared to be against them the more they attempted to resist the walls that were closing in. Her husband, actor Ryan Reynolds, has also been drawn further into the scandal with Blake Lively. How thrilled Reynolds was at first about It Ends With Us is demonstrated by one purported text message he sent to Baldoni, in which he writes, "This is going to be incredible. As it happens, Justin, I love you." A fairly kind and encouraging remark at the time, but now carrying a very different weight in light of the ongoing case. Blake's legal team desperately tried to get the website taken down, already feeling the strain of several court failures. They implored the court to rule that evidence such as this should not be made public by Justin Baldoni's side. The court, however, was not buying it. They had a straightforward argument. The struggle had previously been made public by Blake's crew. They made it apparent that they were prepared to contend in the court of public opinion when it was convenient for them by framing their position in prominent media venues, such as the New York Times. What is the reason for silencing Baldoni's team? If going to the media didn't bother Blake and her attorneys, now that Justin was retaliating, they couldn't turn around and insist that he remain silent. Blake's legal team may now be wondering how much worse things can go. Every action they've taken has failed. All of their attempts to take charge of the issue have failed. Additionally, the likelihood of losing this litigation increases with each unsuccessful tactic. It's important to remember that $400 million is at risk. It's a career-ending defeat, not simply a terrible one. Even for Blake and Ryan, two well-known Hollywood celebrities, such a financial blow would be disastrous. This would compel them to thoroughly reassess their next initiatives, support, and financial commitments. Reputation and legal expenditures are no longer the only factors in the case. Potential financial disaster is at issue. At this place, it's not simply a matter of whether Blake will lose, it's the amount of additional strain her squad can withstand before they totally collapse. It appears that they are losing control of this case over time with each decision, fresh piece of evidence, and tactical blunder. What do you all think? Will Blake and his crew manage to make things better? Or is this the start of the end for her court case? Remember to subscribe so you don't miss any changes, and leave your opinions in the comments section.